Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Michael Badago. So some months ago we started this YouTube channel and we said that we wanted to shake the tax jurisprudence in Ghana, in Africa and the world at large. We said that we would be issuing or putting out videos on very topical tax issues on periodic basis so that the public would make the right decisions when it comes to tax matters. So I'm happy to bring to you a video on a very topical tax issue. So today we want to concentrate on VAT invoice. Section 41 of the Value Added Tax Act 870 as amended provides that a taxable person shall, upon making taxable supplies, issue a tax receipt or tax invoice in the form prescribed by the Commissioner General. So the Commissioner General has designed a certain VAT invoice, what we often call Commissioner General's VAT invoice, that any person who is registered to charge VAT is required or are required to use the Commissioner General's VAT invoice when they make supplies, right? So in other words, when you transact or when you supply goods or services, right, you are supposed to issue the VAT invoice or the Commissioner General's VAT invoice to cover that transaction or that supply, right? And the VAT invoice or the Commissioner General's VAT invoice can be obtained or procured from any of the tax service centers of the GRA across the nation, right? So it behoves on us that to help government to be able to achieve its revenue target, then we must all contribute our quota by one. I mean, if you are registered for VAT or if you are registered if you are a registered supplier, right, then of course when you issue or you make taxable supplies, you are required to issue the VAT invoice to cover those transactions. And even as a consumer, when you go to the mart or the shopping malls or any offices or wherever you find yourself and you procure goods or services that are subject to VAT, you're supposed to insist on the VAT invoice, right? So I mean, it's important that each and every person contributes its quota. Let's ensure that VAT invoices are issued. Let's ensure that we collect VAT invoices so that government will be able to raise the needed tax revenue. So quite recently, the government of Ghana has been complaining about Ghana's tax to GDP ratio. So whilst some countries in sub-Saharan Africa are performing quite well in terms of the tax to GDP ratio, Ghana's have been hovering around 13 to 14%. Quite recently, as of December 2021, the Ghana's tax to GDP ratio was 14.1, but as of March 2022, it had declined to 9.2%. So it means that government must do a lot more to shore up to shore up the numbers so that the tax to GDP ratio improves or increases. So I mean, it wasn't surprising when I read a statement issued by the head of Domestic Tax Revenue Division stating that I mean the GRA as from 1st October 2022 would embark on an exercise I mean to prosecute VAT registered persons who are not issuing VAT invoices to cover taxable transactions, and also even persons who do not collect VAT invoices when they procure goods and services that are subject to the VAT, right? So again, I mean, it behoves on each and every one of us as corporate citizens to also contribute our quota, let's issue the VAT invoice and let's collect the VAT invoices so that government can raise that needed revenue. So the head of Domestic Tax Revenue Division issued the statement. I mean, based on intelligence on their own research or intelligence that they had gathered. According to them, the decline in revenue collections was mainly attributable to persons or registered persons not issuing VAT invoices and consumers also not insisting on the VAT invoices. So for countries like Nigeria, Togo, Cote d'Ivoire, South Africa, according to the head of Domestic Tax Revenue Division, he said that VAT revenue constituted about 30% of the total collection, right? But in the case of Ghana, it was around 20%, which meant that there was, I mean, government had to do more to shore up the numbers, or I mean, we had to actually institute some measures to be able to shore up the VAT numbers or the VAT revenue collection, right? And again, I mean, it behoves on every one of us to contribute our quota to make this work. Right, and in 2021, the Commissioner General, in his address during the launch of the Revenue Assurance and Revenue Assurance Compliance and Enforcement Program, the Commissioner General stated that, or I mean, issued a directive to his officers that all expenses that are not supported by VAT invoices would not constitute legitimate deductible business expenses. Right, so in other words, what the commissioner meant was that, I mean, if so the GRA are vouching your expenses or they are reviewing your financials, and you do not have VAT invoices to support each and every cost or expenditure that you incur, then of course they won't recognize that as a legitimate deductible business expenses. Well, from a nationalistic point of view, they are doing this because they want to ensure that people comply with the VAT Act when it comes to the issuing of invoices and the collection of VAT invoices. Then also, I mean, or possibly it may also appear that they want to I mean, deepen the VAT penetration rate in Ghana, right? So as I mentioned earlier that while some countries are doing almost about 30%, Ghana currently does about 20%, which the commissioner thinks that can be improved, right? So it would appear that the objective is to deepen the VAT penetration rate in Ghana, so that, I mean, much needed revenue from VAT can be raised. Right, but as good as this directive may seem, right, of course, there are some persons or some quarters who have kicked against this decision, right? So first, I mean, to say that all expenses have to be supported with VAT invoices, some persons have argued that it may appear as though the commissioner is acting beyond his remit. So, I mean, of course, the commissioner is empowered by the Ghana Revenue Authority Act, then also the Revenue Administration Act 2016 Act 915 as amended, right? So of course the question is whether by asking that all expenses should be supported by VAT invoices, then would it appear as though the commissioner is enacting new laws for enacting provisions or amending the some laws or beyond the commissioner's remit as granted to him by the Ghana Revenue Authority Act and this is the Revenue Administration Act, right? So some people have kicked against that directive. Then secondly, obviously not all transactions are subject to VAT. There are some expenses that may be incurred but do not attract VAT, right? So some domestic goods and services that are supplied in country or in Ghana do not attract VAT because the VAT Act may have exempted those transactions. Then secondly, I mean, there are goods that are brought into the country that are not subject to VAT or do not attract VAT. So definitely for such kind of goods, I mean, you do not expect that those expenses would be legitimized, or I mean, the GRA would recognize those expenses. I mean, based on VAT invoices. No, because for those expenses, to the extent that they do not attract VAT, then you do not expect that VAT invoices would cover those kind of I mean, transactions or expenses. So these are some of the reasons, or these are some different opinion or views against I mean, the directive of the Commissioner General. But I mean, in some, I think the intention is that yes, they have to deepen the VAT penetration rate in Ghana. We have to ensure that persons issue the VAT invoices to cover VAT transactions as required by the Act. Then also for persons who consume, they also have to ensure that they collect the VAT invoices when they procure goods and services that are subject to VAT. Right. So as I mentioned earlier, also that persons who are registered for VAT are supposed to use the Commissioner General's VAT invoice. Those are hard copy invoices, right? So once you buy the booklet, then for every transaction or every supply to your customer, you have to issue a VAT, a hard copy invoice to cover that transaction. But there's also a dispensation where you can apply to the Commissioner General to seek his approval to allow you to issue your own system generated invoice, right? So in that case, you wouldn't have to use the Commissioner General's VAT invoice. You'd be allowed to issue your own invoice, but your invoice must have certain features similar to that of the Commissioner General VAT invoice. And how do you get this? First, you have to apply, and when you apply, the commissioner will dispatch his team to your office to inspect your accounting system and your accounting records. And once they find that your accounting system and records are correct, then of course the Commissioner General would approve for you to issue your own invoice. And from various cases that have been handled, normally to the extent that you have very good accounting records system, or you have a very good accounting system, usually they would approve for you to issue your own VAT invoices. And of course, we encourage people, or we actually advise people to also take advantage of this opportunity, because first, we want to save the environment. You do not want trees to be cut down to be converted to papers or to be converted to the Commissioner General's VAT booklets. If you obtain the dispensation to issue your own invoice, then of course you even would be able to send soft VAT invoices to your customers, which is recognizable or which is accepted, right? So it is from my perspective, or generally, it is ideal. It is ideal to apply to the Commissioner General and procure the approval to be able to issue your VAT invoices. Consider that if you are using the Commissioner General's VAT invoices, then for all, assuming you probably maybe receive about 1,000 customers, then you have to be writing these invoices for each and every customer. But meanwhile, if you use the system generated one, it makes it easier, convenient, less cost effective, because you do not have to hire a person to be actually writing these invoices and what have you. Right? So, absolutely important that if you have good accounting records or systems, and you apply to the Commissioner General for him to grant you the dispensation to issue your own VAT invoice, right? So, again, it's important that we all contribute our quota to ensure that government is able to collect the needed revenue to provide the various infrastructure projects, right? And the lessons for today are that first, let's please ensure that you issue VAT invoices to cover all taxable transactions. You may use the Commissioner General's VAT invoice to cover your taxable transactions, or you could apply to the Commissioner General to allow you to issue your own VAT invoices that have similar features like the Commissioner General's VAT invoice. And then if you need assistance in procuring such dispensation or getting approval from the Commissioner General, you may consult, or you may touch base with any of the tax consultants. Ernst & Young and several other tax consultants in the country that you can contact to assist you procure that dispensation or approval from the Commissioner General to be able to issue your VAT or your system generated or own invoices. And then lastly, there are penal measures if you do not issue VAT invoices. One is that you may incur some penalties, right? Currently, if you do not issue VAT invoice, it means you'd incur 1,002 Ghana cedis. But in addition, you could also be jailed for 6 months. And there are other penalties, such as failure to maintain proper documentation and all that could be invoked or that may apply. So it is important for you to save your money and to prevent the GRA from clamping down on your business. Let's keep proper records. Let's issue VAT invoices to cover all VATable transactions. Let's keep adequate records for transactions that are not also subject to VAT, right? And let's all contribute our quota to help government to raise the needed revenue. Thank you for listening. If you like this video, please like or subscribe.